The next one says, how has the infusion of technology into classrooms, how has it impacted the curriculum in the classroom, the school, and the district as a whole?
It is, and in some cases, it has revolutionized the classroom, especially for those teachers who are great implementers of technology. So the technology is only as impactful of the individuals who leverage them appropriately. And so it's a great thing to have our students now. We are a district now that's going to be a one-to-one district, truly one-to-one, starting this school year, which is great. So all of our kindergartners through high school will all have devices, and they should. Now we have the challenge is how do we get all of our educators to feel comfortable with actually implementing and leveraging the power of those devices, and not have those devices become the teachers, or not have those devices become a distraction in the classroom. So it's a powerful tool if used well. And so I've seen some successes, but those successes are far and few in between. And now the challenge is figuring out how we really shoot up the skills of all of our educators to maximize those devices to their fullest.
Right, right. So has technology and the transition to online virtual learning been a catalyst for curriculum changes?
I think it has. I think one thing about the, at least in Anniston, I'm going to speak to Anniston because we were not a one-to-one district, as I just shared. And I think with COVID-19, there's some, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but there's been some of the benefits of it has forced every adult and child to figure out how to leverage the devices. So now we have parents at home who had to become real fast comfortable with devices and figuring out how to log on and how to use the devices to help support their sons or daughters. We had teachers also who, if they were shy or shied away from technology, they too have been thrusted into, well, now you have to figure out how you're going to deliver an online virtual lesson to students. Just by the sheer requirement has upped the game of the usage of the technology and the expectations of it. And so I think long term, we're going to be in a better place because now I feel like there will be even more adults now who probably will be more comfortable with technology. And we might end up having the integration of technology be more successful when we do get back into the buildings, if that makes sense, if you're following me.
Yeah.
Logic. So
yeah, I've actually had conversations with teachers when they said, boy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back to teaching without Google Classroom and having some of these resources available.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's good.
There's been some power to that.
Right. All right. So I've got just a couple more questions here. And again, thank you so much for taking this time to do it.
Oh, no problem.
This one's pretty open-ended, I should say. What are the greatest difficulties of the position that you're currently in? As far as
in any position, it's always the management of staff is always a challenge. I can successfully do it, so that's not the issue. It is more that it's a challenge, though.
Okay.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
So managing the staff is always a challenge because, and what I mean by that is, I think I shared a little bit about this before. Educators have been put in a situation where they have to do so much for our students to meet their needs that they're not necessarily focused on teaching and learning. And there's a lot of people who came into teaching and learning because they want to actually focus on teaching and learning. And so the dynamics that are brought into the classroom from the sheer fact that our kids have so many needs poses challenges to educators. And so my role and our role as district leaders is trying to figure out how do we help support staff in all of those with all of those challenges, and at the same time feel encouraged and motivated, and to answer the question directly, to have that sense of urgency that's needed in some areas. And Anniston is in a place where there's a sense of urgency in my mind with the performance of our kids and how the lack of performance the lack of achievement that exists for far too many of our students, that I want that sense of urgency to exist in more adults. And that's a challenge. And not to say they don't want to be, not to say that they don't want to do it. Some, not to say that some don't have the skill or the will. But I think in all three of those different areas, trying to figure out how do you motivate and encourage our staff and address the skills deficits that some may have, or the will deficit that some may have. That's the challenge. That's the tricky part.
Okay.
And that's the challenge of the role, is how do you keep all staff happy and engaged and like their job and loving what they do and passionate about teaching and learning, and convey it in such a way that the kids feel it, because kids know when the teacher doesn't like him. The kid knows when the principal doesn't like him. The kids know, the families know when they're not being treated fairly, or they're being ganged upon in their mind, or actually happening. And sometimes it's subconscious and sometimes it's not, you know. And so it's all of those things in my mind that pose the most difficult challenge with the role, and try to keep people motivated and excited about the work.
Okay. All right. And the last thing is, what are some of the factors that interfere with achieving goals and objectives?
Say that one more time.
What are some of the factors that interfere with achieving goals and objectives?
Those are pretty easy. Some of them have to do with, again, the challenge, the skills, and the challenges kids come into, because there's such a range of learners. You know, in whatever grade you choose, first grade, there's such a range of learners that it poses the challenges to the classroom teacher to be really as effective as he or she would want to be with all of those different kids. So that's a challenge. We have a challenge with mental health issues that our students are coming into the building with. We have challenges in Anniston with, in the past, and even now we're rectifying those things with budgetary constraints, which then, you know, you all and, you know, all of us as a whole start to feel, because then we have to make some tough decisions on either reducing staff or pulling back some resources. And that's never a good place to be, because again, I'm the kind of person who want to provide resources to staff, but yet we are constrained because of the realities of the budget. But that's the work. The work is, you know, in this role, you have to figure out how you're going to do both. How are you going to balance the budget, yet still motivate staff? So budgetary issue is, constraints are a challenge. There's, again, and hear me when I say this, there's some really good work going on in Anniston. There has been, and there's some really good people who want good things for kids. But I'm an honest educator. We have the students in Anniston are underperforming, and the data supports that. And what I have observed is, you know, the level of expectations overall needs to be ramped up, not only for our students, but also for our staff as a whole. So that's a challenge. How do we raise the level of expectations for what we want to have happen with our kids in teaching and learning and supporting their various needs? So that's a challenge. And then there's a challenge with leadership. You know, constant changing of leadership is always a challenge, because, you know, when one superintendent comes or director comes, they have new ideas and try to implement stuff, and 2-3 years later, or the same year, then that person's gone, and then, you know, the new person comes in with new ideas or try new ways of operating, and that lack of consistency wreaks havoc in the district overall. So, sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Those are the kind of things that, those are just a short list of all the challenges, and there's a ton more societal challenges. Think of what's happening right now. All of the stuff that's happening with the unrest in the nation regarding, you know, racial injustice and, you know, equity and equality. All of that filters into the classroom.
Right.
Of the lack of opportunities for families when they start losing their jobs and being able to support their families, that filters back into the classroom. So there's so many challenges, I can keep going on and on, that At the end of the day, we as educators, we're faced with because those kids show up, who they are, and then we are charged with getting them excited and actually learning something. And actually, we are held accountable for the outcomes. And so it's been an interesting road for the last 26 years as an educator.
Wow. 26 years?
26 years. That's all.
Were you like 15 when you started?
Oh, stop it.
Oh, sure. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. This is my 26th year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I started kind of this is my second career.
Okay.
I did 10 years in retail and then went, kind of threw my hands up in the air and said, all right, I'll be a teacher. I've been kind of resistant the whole time and kind of fighting it, but
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let me go ahead and I'm going to turn off the recording now. I do have something else I wanted to ask you about, but
okay, no problem.
Off this.